Hi, all. I'm Cullen Haynes, and welcome to Law Life 2 in 1 day. You're very lucky because my next guest has had 25 years in law, and the last 10 years has been a divorce and coaching expert, helping those that are separating one couple at a time. Won the Australasian Mediator of the Year Awards this year, 2023. And is also the mayor of the Chamber of Commerce. Could you please make very welcome the one, the only, and the incomparable Anne-Marie Cade? How are you, Anne-Marie? What is happening in your circle of influence?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. So, yes, there's a
Absolute
lot
pleasure.
happening at the moment.
It seems that way. It seems that way. Tell me, what's news? What's been happening in your circle of influence?
So, at the moment, I'm working on a divorce coaching training. So, very, very excited about that. That starts on the 24th of July. So, that's next Monday. Um,
Great.
so, yeah, so I'll be launching that and working on a few initiatives with the companies actually assisting their employees who are going through challenging life transitions. So that's what I'm doing in the conflict resolution space at the moment.
Oh, there's a lot going on for you. And I would encourage people, it is 1:05 Australian Eastern Standard Time. Any questions for this powerhouse? We don't get her in this realm very often. So please put them in the comments and I'll be sure to shout them out and put them to Anne-Marie when I can. How would you explain your role and what you do, your life so far, using just film titles, Anne-Marie?
She's all that. And
She's
that's what
all
a
that.
friend told me. I wasn't sure exactly, but she said she's all that. So
I
I
love
guess
that. I love that. Who's the main actress in that one? She's all that.
can't remember actually, but I know the story. It's about this guy who broke up with his girlfriend, and then he went on to help someone become the prom queen in his high school. So I thought, anyway, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think Freddie Prinze Jr. and Rachel Lee Cook. I just Dr. Google helped me with that one, so she's all that. Be sure to get onto that movie. And obviously, it's quite unique what you've been doing for the last 10 years. So I'd love to know, especially with COVID and the surge in people unfortunately becoming, separating during that time. How important is having a divorce coach when going through that time? Because we hear about obviously lawyers, we hear about mediators, but don't hear much about divorce coaches, as it were.
And that is quite telling what you just said, because we don't hear about divorce coaches, but divorce coaches actually play such a critical role when people are going through divorce and separation. They actually help them manage the emotional and practical challenges of the divorce process. Because anyone who's been through divorce, or anyone who knows someone who's been through divorce, you'll know that they are totally overwhelmed, and they really cannot cope. And as lawyers, what we're expecting our clients to do is give us instructions on how they would like to see their life post divorce at a time when they are not able to actually rationally think through what is happening. Their lives are falling apart. They are filled with fear and anxiety. And in order to be able to instruct your lawyers, you need to be able to bring your best self to the process. And when you are going through such a life challenging situation, it's not possible, which is why I think divorce coaching is such an amazing service.
No, I can see the passion that you have for it, and obviously, people that go through the process obviously know how valuable it is. But what do your clients wish they knew at the beginning of the process?
They wish they knew what the whole process entailed. And they wish they had a better understanding of the options that are available to them. They learn as they go along, and it's not very pleasant when you keep learning in the process. It's better if you have a good understanding of what it's going to entail, so that you're really able to make those good decisions. Because unfortunately, they often get taken down that rabbit hole of the legal process and possibly litigation, and sending nasty letters to each other. And as lawyers, I think what we're doing is, we take two people and we drive them apart more so with the approach we take, and then we expect them at the end of the process to go away and start co-parenting. That actually isn't possible.
No, it's a good point there. And obviously, we said there is another way. What is it about the divorce coaching process that is different to, say, mediation or engaging your lawyer? What do you think the most startling key difference is?
So the thing is, as a coach, I work with my clients at an individual level, right? And that's really important, because when a human goes through a life challenging situation like a divorce, what happens is, particularly in divorce, people are deeply polarized, right? And the problem that they are facing actually really gets settled in our neurological structures. And from a neuroscience perspective, you're not able to actually process information that contradicts your assumptions. So you have gone into this process more often than not with that victim mentality, because you are constantly blaming the other person for what went wrong. Okay, so you've got to get people to see things differently, and that is possible. Because now research shows us that, the whole concept of neuroplasticity, and we can start rewiring those neural pathways in our brains, and we can start actually building new habits. And when you do that, you begin to see things differently. So when you work with a coach actually helps a client to focus on their goals, help them to reframe that situation, to move from that victim mentality and, always blaming someone else, to take responsibility and to, work at the individual level to understand that this is a situation that's not going to define you, but that you can actually begin the new chapter of your life if you approach it correctly. Because people fall out of love. That's quite normal. And it doesn't have to be this almighty fight. We are conditioned through what we see through the media, through the movies, that, even when we're young, if you break up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, it's like you have to be angry with them for the rest of your life. So we carry those patterns through our lives. So when there's a breakup, it's almost, that you have to treat this person as your enemy, but it does not serve you. And I was reading a really interesting statistic yesterday that in Australia, people spend around $3.2 billion a year um, in the process of separating from this person who they once loved. So that's pretty sad.
3.2 billion with a B.
$3.2 billion a year. And the winners in the process are the lawyers.
No disrespect to our lawyers and family lawyers out there listening.
So it is, and there are some lawyers doing some amazing work out there. But we need to actually be approaching this in a very, very different way, because I think, it's the nature of the profession that we've got to advocate for our clients, right? So when we advocate for our clients, what we're doing is actually pitting one person against another, and we're telling our clients that, okay, the other person did something wrong and you did something right. But that's the nature of the profession. So I think we really need to be rethinking the way we approach divorce.
And do you find that there's maybe some initial resistance, maybe from the lawyers and whatnot, when you get involved, or you work with some great lawyers that understand the process and that maybe even recommend you as part of the process as well?
Yes, I do. I work with a lot of lawyers, and a lot of law firms actually recognize the value in divorce coaching, in mediation. But, at the other end of the spectrum, there are those who don't recognize it. But the only reason they don't is because they're not aware of the advantages of engaging a divorce coach. Now, coaching is a very new profession. And I think if they really understood the benefits of coaching, because it really helps lawyers manage the process better as well. And with this new divorce coach training that I am actually bringing to Australia, one of the advantages of that is that it teaches people who do the course how to actually engage with clients, how to actively listen, practice those reflective learning skills, and also ask powerful questions so that you're letting your client lead through that process. Because when a client comes to see a lawyer, they cannot be objective. And we need to understand that and approach the way we engage with our clients differently. I think then we will get a better outcome.
I'm endeared by everything you're saying there, Anne-Marie, and my heart goes out to anyone that's going through that process. But I read some of your feed because I'm a big advocate of your LinkedIn work and the posts you put out, and one of them was employers need to be more cognizant of employees that are going through a separation, because I feel like it's like a death in the family. Like, you don't know how to treat that person. It's all awkward. Do you say sorry? Do you not say sorry? And do you find that the same? Like, no one knows how to help a person that's going through that troubling time. You can see it on their face. They're wearing the weight of the world. What's your advice to employers and maybe colleagues of people that are separating?
So the statistics are pretty startling again when it comes to how divorce affects people and the productivity within the workplace, right? So the Harvard Business Review actually ran an article where they said that an employee's productivity drops by up to 40% when they're going through a challenging life situation like divorce. And they reach out to their managers. And there was a survey done recently in Australia where managers were surveyed, and 97% of the managers surveyed said they did not have the skills with which to help their employees. And 2 in 3 managers said they drew on their own life experiences to actually help these employees. And that is actually not an ideal situation. People going through divorce need professional help. They need the help of either a coach or a mediator who is going to really help them and educate them on the process and give them an understanding of what the options are. So in the UK and the US now, a lot of employers are being made aware of this, and they have divorce coaches who come in and run master classes actually within the firm for people who might be facing situations like this. And that's something I'd really like to see in Australia. I'm working at the moment on a very exciting project with an HR team, and we're hoping to launch that in the next couple of months to help the employees going through divorce. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, and I would like to see more help for people going through divorce in the workplace.
Fantastic. That's exciting. Are you allowed to announce which HR team it is belonging to, or is it a big one?
It's in the works at the moment, but it will be in the news in the next 2 months. Yes.
Oh, this is exciting. Forward-thinking firm that is. Well done for securing this for your team. I think it's fantastic. What passion projects are you working on right now, Anne-Marie? What's close to your heart that you're able to share with us?
So I'm working, like I said, on this divorce coaching course, and that is launching next week. I've had a really great response for that. So, and I've got professionals with an accounting background of experience in the corporate field, people who have trained in alternative dispute resolution, who have actually signed up. It's still open to taking more people on board. So what's unique about this course is that it is grounded in the principles of alternative dispute resolution, but that's all within a coaching framework. So divorce coaching is actually a very specialized form of coaching, and you don't really want to step into that territory unless you have got really great training in coaching, because a coach does not give a client advice. We actually lead with the questions we ask so that the client comes to the client. We understand that clients have the answers to their problems, so we help them identify those answers. So this is a really, really exciting course. We have incorporated a lot of skills when it comes to negotiation, conflict resolution, and also coaching, all within a coaching framework. And it is actually structured to fit within our Australian family law context. We take family dispute resolution aspects into account, and help our coaches understand how they can really help clients to get over a very life-challenging situation.
No, absolutely. And I'm sure you'd welcome, maybe if people don't want to ask general questions to the audience, maybe a cheeky DM or email to Anne-Marie. I'm sure she'd welcome that and talk a little bit more, one-on-one about any particular sensitive questions that you have.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. And I love seeing legal professionals like yourself in the industry doing things differently, very similar to Darren Mort, the barrister in Melbourne as well, who is taking another look at separation, and he's actually made a movie called Tommy, and that's all about the impacts on children when people are separating, and he's now got it mandated in the US that every couple that's separated has to watch this movie. I think it's fantastic. So I hope to see the positive changes you're working on in Australia happen on that side as well. And would you like to see anything change in law or the family law process in particular that you'd like to call out?
Yes, I would actually. Ideally, I think we should be having one lawyer for a couple. And that is a process that's actually gaining ground in the UK. There are a few firms where they have one lawyer who actually works with the couple and gives them impartial expert assessment of their matter. I think that would be a really great way to actually approach the way we do family law. There's two lawyers for each person is not the way to go, because you're hearing two different stories. As a mediator, I have the opportunity of hearing both stories together. But with a lawyer, what happens is they tell each of their stories. So I'd love to see this concept of one lawyer for the couple, because if they're doing it in countries like the UK, there's no reason why we can't be more innovative and adopt those approaches in Australia as well.
And why do they do that in the UK, for instance, and why don't you think they do that over here?
I think there's a possibility that we can do it here. I think we need to start talking to the powers that be, and explain to them that if we're spending $3.2 billion on mostly on legal fees, or that's what the divorce industry is in this country, I think we really need to be doing something. It seems like the system is broken.
No, very good. I'm glad you're calling it out. You can be as controversial as you want here. This is a safe space, and I'm sure anyone listening to the podcast and whatnot, or the live stream would be picking up what you're putting down there, Anne-Marie. And I wanted to ask this question as well, because over in the States, they obviously have prenups or prenuptials that you can have. Do you advocate those that are getting married now, if you could give them advice to do something like that in advance of, I think the statistic is 50% of people separate, which is shocking, but I think that's what it is. Is it sensible to get your affairs in order if the worst happens?
Of course, I'm a great proponent of prenups. I think it's really important to have that conversation. I'm all about having those difficult conversations right at the beginning of the process. And I think it's important that we actually talk about issues, not just financial issues, but, the thing is, when you're in love with someone and you're not thinking of what's going to happen down the track, but I think it's good to have conversations about, okay, we're going to have kids. What's that going to look like? Who's going to look after the kids? Is one person going to stay at home? Is one person going to go back? Are you going back to work? How long after the baby, will you go back to work? What happens when our parents are older? Are they going to come live with us? What happens if we have got issues, money problems or financial issues? How are we going to manage that? I think those are all conversations we need to have, because those are the types of conversations which actually will lead to conflict down the track. But if you have addressed it and you're aware of how you're going to actually manage those situations, in addition to having a prenup, I think those are conversations we really need to have.
Yeah, and they are hard conversations, because why on earth would you be asking me, what do we need to do if something were to go bad, if you really love me? Like, don't you trust that we're going to be together? I think that's the disparity, right? No one wants to look for the rain clouds beyond the rainbows.
Yes, and I think you can have the difficult conversations and not even go down the path of what are we going to do if we do split up, but you can have an understanding as to how you're going to navigate those difficult, challenging situations as they come up, and make those agreements that you're going to actually sit and have a conversation about it. And I often tell my friends who are actually happily married to go see a counselor once in about 8 to 10 weeks and talk about things that they're not able to talk to each other about, because like we go to the gym to keep our bodies healthy, I think it's really important as a married couple, or if you're in a relationship with someone, to keep that healthy, that you have a coach, or a mediator, or even a counselor that you can talk things through.
Very well said, and I'm sure you got some good recommendations there as well, there, Anne-Marie. Now I've heard it said, and I see it all the time, obviously, because we do a lot of people's home loans, they split up and whatnot. Is the number one cause of people separating financial? Like, I'd love to get your beat on that.
I find that it's a breakdown in communication, but what can lead to that is a lot of tension around money, and a lot of insecurity and a lot of fear around money. So that is a huge issue. And I always advocate that people, talk to financial experts and professionals like yourself, and, do it in the open, be transparent, because, being a little bit diffident about sharing what your financial situation is, it can, just be detrimental to the relationship.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting because we see a lot of obviously first home buyers who are buying together, or recently got married, and some of them still have separate bank accounts. I'd love to know your thoughts whether it's prudent to have a joint bank account or keep it separate. What do you think,
Yeah,
Anne-Marie?
I think that just depends on the couple. And if they want an element of independence, that's okay. But then again, don't do it in a manner where you're trying to be deceitful. I think whatever you do within a relationship needs to be talked about. And if there's that level of understanding, that's going to actually be really helpful. So,
No,
you
definitely.
want yeah, whether you want to have a joint bank account or independent accounts, have the conversation, do what suits you, but talk about it.
No, agreed. And I've seen different variations. I've seen married couples who the other person keeps a ledger of everything they paid for, and then they
Yeah.
take it out of the other person. I just think there's different extremes, right? So you can go both ways. So good points that we're talking about here. Lessons for young mediators, lawyers, professionals watching, or young couples. What would you like to impart today?
So, to young couples or to lawyers first and
Well, let's go
mediators?
through. Let's start with young lawyers and mediators, and let's go to young couples.
So, with the lawyers and the mediators, actually, I teach at the College of Law and I teach the young graduates. And when I'm teaching the lawyers, I always tell them do some training in mediation. Because it really helps you have better conversations, understand, alternative dispute resolution processes better. With mediators, what I tell them is, you have to constantly be learning and developing your skills. You can't just do one mediation course and think, I'm this mediator. No, you're not. You have to be continually learning, because there's so much out there to learn. With young couples, I would say just talk about everything, discuss everything. Don't keep secrets, because what happens is if you don't have those conversations, that resentment builds. You get very frustrated with the other person, and then it's going to explode at some point, and you don't want that to happen.
No, very well said there, Anne-Marie. And I think going back and linking to what you were saying at the start for those who are separated, I think don't have that emotional baggage that you have to hate the other person. Try and let go and move on. I think it was Soren Kierkegaard who said, forgiveness is the fragrance the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it. And, it's a little bit deep, I know, but there's a lesson in that, I think,
Oh, totally. And, the whole idea here is to be able to actually own your own part in the process, right? And, sometimes an apology can be so powerful. It doesn't hurt anyone to say, I'm sorry, I did the wrong thing, but, let's move on from here. And I think that's really a critical part of the process.
I agree. And we're getting to the end of the stream there, Anne-Marie, and it's been valuable nuggets you've been dispensing the whole time. But I'd love to ask you this question. When all is said and done, how would you like to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered as someone who actually thinks outside the box, because I think that's something I do quite well. I'm always challenging the status quo, and I'm looking for better ways, more efficient ways. And I think I have a deep sense of curiosity, which has served me well. So, yeah, I'd like to be remembered like that.
And I think you will there, Anne-Marie. You're a shining star. And it was a pleasure to have you speak. Where can people find you? Where are you hanging out the most at the moment?
So I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm also on LinkedIn, Anne-Marie Cade. And you can find me on Instagram and TikTok as well. So Divorce and Conflict Expert, or under Anne-Marie Cade. Just get in touch with me. I'd love to have a chat and help you out if you need the help.
And how are you finding TikTok?
I love TikTok.
There you go. It is a little bit like that. So LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and of course, the one and only TikTok. It's good to see you haven't lost that giggle, Anne-Marie. We talked about that in our story series. Very happy person as well.
Thank you. And it's been a pleasure chatting to you again.
It's been a pleasure. We'll bring you back for some bonus questions there, Anne-Marie. And if you are a legend of law or know someone who is that would like to be on the show, feel free to furnish the details over. We come out every Wednesday, chatting to a legend of law and on our Law Live. And we'll upload this to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bye for now, everyone. Take care. Anne-Marie, bringing you back. If you could explain what you do to a 6-year-old child, how would you explain that?
I help people sort out their fights and be nice to each other.
Oh, very simple, hard-hitting, and I'm sure any child, Benji, when he's a little bit older, would even understand that as well, Anne-Marie. That's great. If you could give yourself advice at any age, what would the advice be? And how far back would you go to speak to yourself about it?
Back yourself, naysayers be gone, and stay curious.
Stay curious. And how old would you be when you're giving yourself this advice?
A 5-year-old, I think.
Go back when you're 5 years old, just about to start school. So back yourself and stay curious. I think those are words of wisdom, watchwords we can all live by there, Anne-Marie. And again, really appreciate you coming on the Law Live today.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Absolute pleasure. Have a great Wednesday, everyone. Be great.